It's kind of funny how many of these podcasts have started with, I met so-and-so in a bar. But I met Jeff Chambers in a bar. He was working as a bar back, and I was there getting free drinks from my sister who bartended there, because that's what little brothers do. Now, before Jeff, his wife, and 4 sons became homesteaders, Jeff was a jack of all trades. He drove long-haul truck, and he was also the road manager for my band Leaderhouse, which sounds glamorous, but we'll leave it at that. Jeff was also the owner of the world-famous Westhawk Bar in Westhawk Lake, Manitoba, before it burned down. And I know if you know about the Westhawk Bar, you're probably very curious about how it burned down. And now you're about to find out. Did we collectively ever find out how the Westhawk Bar burnt down?
Yeah, it was, and this was insurance investigators went through everything. Yeah. But like that day, it burnt down the Thursday night before September long weekend, our busiest weekend of the season, right? Like our money making weekend. We used to have a paint party on that weekend. I'm building it up right here just so, because a lot of people are like, oh, how convenient that it burnt down at the end of summer. It's like, it would have been convenient if it burnt down on the Monday, but it burnt down on the Thursday, which was completely inconvenient, right? But anyways, I didn't go in that night. It was a busy night. It's wings and ribs, and we usually get quite the crowd coming out for Thursday nights. So my business partner was there, and he said he started smelling smoke. So him and one of the waitresses or the bartenders went through the place, sniffing all the air and seeing if they could discover where the smoke was coming from. And then they just lost the scent of it. Now, where the bar was located, right behind there was the Westhawk campsite, which at that time of year is full of fires, right? They're all having campfires going. So if you have the hood vent on, it's easy for the smell of smoke and campfire to waft through the building and go through the building towards the kitchen. So they just said, oh, okay, it's nothing. We're just not going to worry about it. It's not a fire inside. It's the fire's outside.
First mistake.
So at that time, first mistake.
Oh, wait a second.
At that time.
Oh, we're getting an echo here. Yeah. Oh, no. Go ahead.
All right. Where do you want me to start again? Thursday, you want to go all the way to the beginning, or?
No. So you saw you just thought with the hood roof. Yeah.
Yeah, he thought nothing of it. And at that time, I was part of the fire department still. And Deanne and I were, at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to go to work, not at the bar, but at her business, which was the property management and doing landscaping. And the pager went off. And I was like, oh, the fire call. I was thinking I have to go to the fire call. And then across the pager, it comes across as Westhawk Inn on fire. And I was just like, yeah, we got to go. And so I was first on scene, like besides the person who called in.
How convenient.
The fire. Yeah. But I didn't go in. I didn't go in the building. I stood outside, and it's just this little wisp of smoke, like puffing out the top. Nothing. And I'm thinking, hopefully there's not enough smoke damage here that we could still be open this weekend. And the fire department pulls up, and it's a long way down to the lake to run water and to shuttle. So it took them about like 15 minutes to set up, and it's still just, the smoke's getting a little bit darker, and I'm thinking, oh man, it's gonna be black smoke, hurry up and get in there. And then they went in, and they said it was really smoky inside. Like I didn't have any equipment on, so I wasn't joining the department and going in. And they came out, and it's like, yeah, we figure that it's coming from this area of the building. And the only thing I was worried about was like, there's a safe right by the office. Do you think you guys can grab the safe? And can you let me in to get into the ATM? Like I'm grabbing cash because they're saying the place is about to go up. And then the fire department comes out and they're asking me, hey, how do we get up into the attic? And at that point it's like, guys, it's gone. Like, you can't get up into the attic, because that building was like 4 different buildings attached over the years, right? Like, it started off as one thing that was built in like the 40s, and then something was built in the 60s and attached to it, and something was built in the 80s and attached to it. So when you got up into the attic, you'd be going through a tunnel that all of a sudden there'd be a hole in the old roof that you'd have to climb through. It was a maze up there, and if I sent someone up there, they would have died without a doubt. So it's like, you can't go in that way. And within half an hour of the fire department being there and dousing everything, it was fully engulfed. Like, smoke coming out of everywhere, flames everywhere. You could tell at that point it was, a total loss. I've been in enough fires that you're not coming back from this. And at that point, it's like trying to protect the propane tanks from exploding and trying to protect the hotel rooms from going up and stuff like that. And so, anyways, to answer your question on how it started, when the insurance company comes out, it's a bar, it's a total write-off, and it burnt down before the long weekend, and it's a summer venue, so we got to get our insurance guys in here because we're going to catch you at the game. And because it's a commercial building, the officer of the fire commissioner of Manitoba, one second, dry mouth already, 5 minutes into an interview. The officer of the fire commissioner comes out, and he's been through a million fires, so he knows what he's looking for. And it took him, he said, about 5 minutes to write it off as a major power surge. And so what happened that night was Manitoba Hydro was shutting down the grid out here to do some work, and then we were feeding off of Hydro 1. So Ontario's Hydro came through. And now the officer or the fire commissioner can't say, it's these guys' faults or it's this guy's fault. It's just,
why not?
Calculating the math and putting it together. So he showed us this wire that, was as thick as your thumb that had gone down to a pencil point. And so when Manitoba Hydro shut down their power and Ontario turned their power on, we were the last ones in that line. So there was a power surge that went through everything and dead-ended in our building and dead-ended at the junction box or the hydro box, and obviously superheated enough that it melted a wire that's like 1 inch thick down to a pencil point. And it would have just caused enough heat and maybe even like molten metal dripping into the building. And that is probably what they smelt that night, but it just started off in the attic space, very dry timbers up there, and it didn't take long after that for it to spread. But I've been exonerated. It wasn't me.
Was there a point in the investigation where you were like, just felt guilty because all the things lined up like it was?
Yeah,
like they're gonna say it's my fault and I won't be able to collect the money.
Yeah, well, it's instantly like you get there, and I'm sure Dale was looking at me and I'm looking at Dale, and we're not saying anything to each other. It's like, yeah, if it was you, like, don't tell me about it because I can't hold a straight face, yeah. And then the while it's burning, the cops want to interview me and say, yeah, no, man, like, you could do this tomorrow. And I don't know, I think maybe there was that nervousness of being interviewed and then not being able to pinpoint what started it. Like, it could have been arson, right? Like, you make enemies in the bar scene, and it could have easily been some kid that we'd kicked out of there the weekend before who would have started it. Yeah, we had no idea. Like, did someone last night leave the stove in the kitchen on? Like, are we at all at fault in this? Everything's going through your mind. But, I think as soon as the roof was caving in, and you could hear the 13 pallets of beer crashing through the vendor, that I started drinking and just kind of wiped away the nervousness, because it's like, yeah, bring it on, man. I did nothing wrong. I understand why people automatically went to that point,
Right.
thinking that I might have done it. Guys who I've known for years were questioning me. I wasn't. Dale being my business partner, he wouldn't even allow me to go on our Facebook feed because of the comments that were coming through. So I have no idea. I know that even the guys on the fire department who had been on the fire department with for 10 years were questioning my ethics by the end of it.
So were your fire buddies that came and saw you? You were there for first, right? And you're like,
First,
I guess
yeah.
my place is burning down.
Yeah, no, I was. You know what? It happened so fast. There was no real time to be emotional. And like I said, at first when I was looking at it, it's like, man, I like being out here. You don't save a lot of cabins that are on fire, but I have been to a cabin where there's a fire, and we crawled in there and put it out. So, and because I had witnessed the fact that something can be saved, I believed when we first pulled up that, oh yeah, they're gonna go in there, and I thought maybe it was a grease fire in the kitchen, or I I had a fire in an apartment that I lived in underneath Greg's place there.
Yep.
And that was just like a blanket that was on a space heater, and they thought the whole building was going to go down, but it was just a smoke show. So I was thinking maybe this is just a smoke show.
Well,
I wasn't worried about it at the time.
To put it into perspective, for people that don't know, the Westhawk, not only the work you put into it up until it burnt down, it was also the nest egg from which you sold your truck, which was all you had at the time, and you put it into this bar/business. This was going to be my future. Now it's burning down.
Well, it was, I was into it for 10 years. We originally bought it in 2004, and the idea was to get out of it in 8 years. Just the bar scene isn't something I think you could do forever.
Right.
And as soon as I had Marcus, our second son, it was time to get out, and I was looking at getting out with a shotgun clause where Dale would buy me out. It just never got to that point.
Was Dale interested in buying you out at that point, if need be?
Yes, Dale.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Dale was into it. Like, he wanted to buy me out, and that summer that the bar burnt down, he actually opened up a second bar in Kenora. So he was becoming a little bit of he was starting an empire, right? He had a couple different bars going. So he was into it. There was no questions that he would continue running it. And with buying me out, it was all on him. I think he was looking forward to the fact that I'd be gone.
Right. In retrospect, do you feel it burning down was like the real beginning to the rest of your life?
I know a lot of people would be upset by this. I wish that it was still there. I wish that it hadn't burnt down, and that there was a successful, transition between me owning the bar and me not owning the bar. It'd give me a place to go for happy hour. I wouldn't be, feeling like a pariah in the community once in a while because I was the guy who let the bar burn down and not rebuild it.
Would they stink eye you every now and then?
Yeah, like that first couple years afterwards, it was stink eyes and fingers and back talking, and you're the guy who like we were going through the process of like getting it rebuilt. We had plans, like we had engineered drawings, but they weren't stamped at that point. We were going through with insurance, but insurance, the guy that we were dealing with, it was his first big case, right? He had just gone from house insurance to commercial insurance, and it was his first case that was over $1 million. So he was trying to make a name for himself as the guy who saved the insurance companies.
Gross.
Yeah. So we struggled with that. We had to prove everything. Not just like the fact that we didn't burn it down, but we had to, show books, and we had to get a chattels list together and go through and show everything that we owned, and proof of income and proof.
How do you do that when everything burns down? Like, how do you? Couldn't you just say, "Oh, we had a jukebox from the '40s that was valued at $80,000"? Can you just say a bunch of stuff?
I think there might have been a time where you would have been able to get away with that. And there is a lot of good faith and trust that is something that you should have. It's like, my rookie Wayne Gretzky card collection was in the office, and I lost that, and it was the $1 million one, right? It's like, they're not going to give you that. You have a number that you could inflate to, and they go, okay, you're capped out. Even if what you have is worth more than that, they're like, no, you're only insured for that to this point. So yeah, to put our chattels list together, it probably took us like 3 or 4 months, and
all the while you're making zero income.
All the while I'm going to work every day, trying to at that point, we had a nanny who would look after the kids for us, and Deanne would go to work and I would go to work, and we were still able to survive. But if we had to rely on the insurance giving us the money, like if we didn't have something to fall back on, bankruptcy would have been the best option for us.
Right.
But we had something to fall back on. So
was there ever a moment in time when everything kind of got flushed out and you had that insurance check that you were like, okay, let's build another bar, or was it we're done?
No, this I'm going with that. Like, this is a 2-year process of us trying to rebuild it. And so that's what we went through, like the first, 5-6 months. And then, it took so long that it's all blurry on exactly how it happened. But eventually I went, and one of my customers whose place I looked after, he is like one of the best insurance lawyers out there. So we, he said, as soon as you need me, let me know and I'll come in to help you. We hired a negotiator who, as soon as we hired him, the insurance company's like, oh, not that guy. We got to deal with him. He's known because he used to be an insurance adjuster. And
what is that title called? I didn't know there was a job that was that.
Well, I think he's like one of a kind.
Oh.
Where he was the adjuster, and then he becomes a consultant where he's fighting the adjuster because he knows the ins and outs, and he knows where they're going to screw you, and he knows where they can be screwed. So
I love it. That's nice.
The dynamics of everything changed instantly.
Like the cops that fight speeding tickets.
Yeah, and we didn't even have to go to any meetings after that. He would come to us and we'd say, this is what we want to do. This is what we want. And he'd go back and negotiate for us. But there's something in the insurance books where if they don't settle within 2 years, it's like, haha, you lost. You get nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what? They can just filibuster it out forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you don't know what's going on, at the end of 2 years, they'll just say, no, it wasn't done in good faith. You guys stalled it out, and we're washing our hands of it, and haha. So it got to Yeah, it got to about a year and 11 months. And, the stress of not having the income coming in, the stress of having people giving you the fingers, the stress of always thinking that this guy next to me is thinking this of me, and then having the stress of everything that I worked for over 10 years is now gone
Yeah.
because some insurance guy is trying to make a name for himself. Well, at this point, the consultant that we had, actually, let me go back about 3 weeks here before it got to that point. We had the drawings up for the place, right? We were ready to go in, rebuild. Um, the insurance company said, okay, well, this is what we could release to you, but you have to have structural, stamped, engineered drawings before we release any money for your build. It's like, well, we need money because it's $30,000 to get engineered stamped drawings done. It's like, well, we need some money in order to get these drawings done. And at that point, they realized that we were legit. And this guy who was trying to make him a name for himself was all of a sudden going to be in way over his head because the amount that we were insured for was way more than he'd ever dealt with.
Mm.
So at that point, I think he started to panic and he started throwing numbers at us, like, trying to force us to take the buyout instead of doing a rebuild.
This is kind of grossing me out though, because like it sounds like it's not fair play. Like this guy on the insurance side is trying to offer you something, and in your desperation, you're like, okay, let's just take it. It's better than zero. Like what? I thought it was like a fair value game.
I think if we didn't have a consultant and we didn't have a lawyer, we would just have been naive.
Right.
And we would have thought, oh, this guy, he's a nice guy. He comes across as a great guy. He's given us all that we're worth, and not even close, man. Like it wasn't even within 25% of. I think, like I don't want to send numbers out because I have a business partner, and but his number compared to what we got was that he originally offered us was a third of what we eventually got out of it.
That's gross.
Yeah. And then it got to the point where the money started becoming real, where it's like, okay, now they've offered us to a point where if we rebuild, we'll never be able to sell it for this, like
Right.
ever, right? It doesn't matter that it costs that much to build. Like if it costs us $3 million to build it, it doesn't mean that the business is now worth $3 million. It just means that's what it costs to rebuild it.
Right.
You try to sell it for $3 million, no one's going to go, well, sure, because the business isn't worth $3 million because it's a seasonal business. The books don't show that. So now you have to go, we're over what book value on the business was. So now we're winning. If we reopen it, we're going to lose out. Yes, people will love us. We'll be good Samaritans in the community for saving the local bar. But at the end of the day, we bought it to run an enjoyable business, and we got out because we were offered more money than we'd ever get.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
And to go way back to your original question there before I started that rant, I look at it now as though that bar burning down was an act of God. It helped me out.
Right.
And it put in, and it's been a slow burn to get there, but it put me on a trajectory that I'm looking forward to. Right? I struggled through it, but now I'm getting to that point where it's enjoyable again.
Well, it sounds like your backup plan with your side hustle with your wife was kind of what saved you through everything, or else you might have had to take that 1/3 low ball, cut your knees off, gross offer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, you're gonna go bankrupt, but we'll come in and save you with next to nothing.
Yeah. Did you ever have a conversation with the guy who was trying to make his name? Like, hey, buddy, like let's just get real here. This is what it's worth. Don't try to make a name for yourself. Or were you separated from him?
No, we would get to sit down, but I find that in negotiations, I know that it's probably wrong. Like if you look at how really rich people negotiate, but I tried to be polite about it and tried to, hey, this is what we think, and we have a difference of opinion. And I think part of that, him lowballing us, is part of the negotiation tactic, right? I'm gonna give you next to nothing. Well, I want this, and it's like, well, okay, well, we'll meet in the middle. It's like, well, that's still nothing because you started off so low. But I think the problem was that it should have taken us 6 months to get to that instead of dragging it out for 2 years.
I wonder, in that line of work, the adjuster, is he incentivized by a portion of the money he saves the insurance company, or is he just a salary worker?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's the insurance game, like the guys who, like the day that the bar is burning down, you get a restoration company come in there, and they're like, hey, we're gonna help you out, and you think, oh, this is great, you know, the people are coming out of the woodwork to help us out. Like, that's a good feeling. People are coming to help you out. We're gonna get security here, and we're gonna put a fence around so no one, you know, it's a bar. People are gonna try and grab souvenirs and stuff. We still had a basement that was full of stuff that, you know, we were able to get out of there. But you don't realize that they're coming in and setting up a perimeter and sending their own guys in there to work security, and that's coming off of your end line. So whatever.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah, whatever insurance gives you at the end, it's like, yeah, here's $1 million, but now you got to pay $75,000 to these guys who looked after your place for 3 weeks. Like, the restoration guys that get in there, you know, a lot of them make really good money. Like, I have a buddy who does it in the States, and every time I talk to him, it's like, yeah, I just made $60,000 this month. Like, he's making, you know, close to $500,000 a year just being the first guy in there, and then deals with the insurance company. So there's got.
How does that work though? I don't understand. Like, so you're sitting there, your bar is burning down, and some guy goes, "Hi, I have a restoration company. I'm going to take care of you." Or is it ordered through people? Do you know what's coming?
No, no. It's they set up something, and then all of a sudden it's like you start getting cards, you start getting phone calls. It's like, hey, remember me? I was at the bar all the time. I'm good friends with your good friends. I work for a restoration company. Let me do the work. And the other guy's like, oh no, I've already it's ambulance chasing.
No way.
Right?
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. Like
just follow the smoke, I guess, eh?
yeah. Like the things that you learn along the way. We got to save someone. Like Clearwater Market burnt down, and it's a gas station in Clearwater in Lake of the Woods, not far from here. But I was working one day, and Deanne, my wife, just happened to be in the store getting ice cream for the kids when she started smelling smoke. And the place is on fire. And she's like, hey, like, there's smoke starting to billow out here, and customers are still, you know, coming in, and she's telling everybody they got to get out. And I was just down the road, and she phones me, and I just happened to be with the fire chief of Clearwater Bay at that time. And I hang up the phone. I was like, Clearwater Market's on fire. And we raced there, and there's like, we're first on scene. I wasn't even part of that fire department. I put on gear, and we got in there, and my job was to hose down the gas pumps because the building's on fire, and they got the gas pumps on one side. They got a huge propane tank, and on the other side, they've got. Is
that legit though? Like, it strikes me like if I was there, would I be suiting up, or do they know? Well, you know what you're doing because you're not a fireman, right?
No, but I was a volunteer fireman for 10 years. I've got class 1 training.
Right.
The guy I was with knows me enough to know that, you know, I'm a valuable guy in situations like that.
Okay. You had skills.
I had some skills, yeah. But I'm there putting out this fire, and my kids are across the road watching me, and I'm 10 feet away from a gas pump. Tank. I'm trying to keep it cool as the top of the gas pump is starting to melt. I'm making a long story here, but I think it's part of the story of why I was there in the first place. And so we put it out. You know, the helicopters were coming over and dumping water over it. We were shuttling water back and forth. We finally get it out. The building's lost. There's nothing left of it. But the owner shows up. The fire is just out. The insurance guy's already there, telling him, "Hey, yeah, okay, I'm your insurance adjuster. I hold the papers on your insurance," and it's going through. And the fire chief is Dale. My business partner is the fire chief of Clearwater.
There's a lot of incestuous connections going on.
Yeah, what's a small town?
Yeah, smoke, fire, people there on the scene first.
I'm not even gonna try and figure out where you're going with that. Anyways, we're there, and the owner comes, and we know the owner because we're always going into the market. And we're talking to him as the insurance adjuster comes up, and he's like, "Yeah, we got to do this." And we turn to him, he's like, "Hey, no, you don't. You could do all of this that he's saying right now. You could do it on your own. You could go hire the equipment. You could go rent the equipment and do it yourself. You could clean this property up. You could put out your own security, and you're going to save yourself $100,000 by the end of it." And the insurance guy is just like, ugh. So his reaction makes me think that, yes, they got to be getting kickbacks.
For sure. Well,
just his reaction was like, ugh, you guys aren't supposed to know that. And now that you know that, you're not supposed to share that. Like, you dug into my pockets here. It's like, well, no. We saved that guy's pockets.
Let's get something straight here. For the dozen or so people that will listen to this or watch this, now, you know when you get arrested, they say, don't say anything to cops. So if you're sitting there and your business is burning down, what do you tell the fire or the insurance adjuster when he comes up to you? What's the first thing you say? Can you say something like, "Get out of here, I'll talk to you tomorrow"? What's your advice?
I'd assume that you could. My advice would be, in that moment, your business is burning down. You're not really thinking straight. If you could remember one thing, it would be to tell them, "My consultant and my lawyer will get back to you. Do not do anything until that point." Because then they're like, you got a consultant? Yeah, my consultant and my lawyer are going to tell me how to deal with this. Because a guy whose house is burning down is going to have to go through the same thing as a guy whose business is burning down. Your value's in there, and you want to get, and you have the right to get every single dime that's in there, because you're still going to lose out at the end, right? You've still suffered a loss. You don't need to be kicked in the crotch down the block at the same time because of it. So yeah, if you could do anything, stall it out until you're level-headed enough. But they get in there, right, and bodies are bleeding across the highway, and you're walking around because you've just been in a tragic accident, and this guy's trying to get you to report on the incident. It's like, hey man, let me reflect upon this for a couple seconds.
It seems like gross and predacious that I don't like that.
Is that like truly a shock though when you hear that the insurance companies might be corrupt and
no, not at all.
Not the greatest of individuals. No,
but it's like when you're saying that you went into it, just seeking fair value, and you were polite and courteous and just wanted to possess a good business nature when you're negotiating with this insurance guy, and all the while he's trying to take money out of your pocket and cut your knees out and potentially rob you blind of it all.
Yeah, leave me at the end with nothing. Yeah.
You ever run into that guy? Like to see him in a store or something like that?
No, you know what? I've been so long, I don't think I'd even recognize him, which is probably a good thing. That you're not bumping into someone's like, "You're that guy. Hey, I know this guy. He's a schmuck."
Well, he's got to live in his own skin, so eventually that probably, becomes malignant at some point if you got to carry that type of weird life around to work for that type of money.
Yeah, I think the adjusters are one thing because they're trying to to win you over for the, like, to benefit the insurance companies, which are billion-dollar companies, and they're trying to nickel and dime you. The guys who are coming in as the, hey, we're in the restoration part of it, I don't think they're trying to rip you off personally, but the guys who are in the insurance game seem to make a premium dollar on every single thing that they do. So I think they're trying to rip off the insurance company, right? So I don't want to come. I got friends who are, those guys.
Yeah,
I don't want to say that I think they're bad guys.
So
yeah,
when I heard that you were moving into a living off the land type of environment, I mean, obviously it didn't surprise me one bit. But what did surprise me, that it did take you this long to get there.
Yeah. Well.
So what made you? What was the pivot point where it's like, you know what, we're selling this and we're gonna live off the land?
That pivot point isn't as exciting as I think you might think it is. It was that I got two boys that were in hockey already, and every 3 times a week we're driving 45 minutes to an hour, depending on if you're playing on one side of town or playing on the other side of town, for them to play hockey. And then one day I just got tired of all the driving, and then I looked and we got twin boys running around. I was like, I got 4 boys that I'm gonna have to be driving. I could be driving to hockey as a full-time position, and it just. I think I looked at it and I sat down on the couch and I went on the computer and it was like, hey, look at this. There's 140 acres for sale and it's only cost this much. And the next day I phoned the bank to make sure that I could do it. And I went, and I think there's still snow on the ground. I walked the property, and as soon as I walked it, it was the property was always vacant. It was never developed. But American hunters owned it long time ago. And then the owner before us was a trapper, so he just trapped on it, right? Caught the odd beaver and furs and pelts off of it. So I was walking down a little chicken trail that was overgrown, places you'd have to duck down in order to get through, and walking through a feet of snow. And I realized right away that it was low-lying ground, but it goes up to a ridge, and there's a huge ridge there with bedrock foundation. And it's like, okay, so there's a previous road here that's probably can't put heavy equipment down, but there's bedrock on a high point to build with. There's definitely water. It's okay. There's everything that I need. And I put in, I think I went home and asked Deanne about it first, but I might have put the offer in and then said, hey, by the way, I just put an offer in on this. And yeah, we weren't planning on moving from here. When we originally built here 10 years ago, we're, on the high point. We could see people coming down our road. We're in a decent location. And when we built, I had the bar going at that time, and this originally was going to be where we settled for good. We bought, we have land out in Sioux Narrows, so we could, go out to the cabin and get away from everybody when they came out here in the summertime. We could get away from everybody in the summertime, and then we come back here in September and everyone's gone until, June and July when they come back, and when they come back is when we escape again. But I think it was the turning point would have been having the twins. It was like, 4 boys running around, 4 boys having to drive them into town. It's like it's not enough space. It's we needed 1 extra bedroom and a bunch of things. Just made sense to me to
let me get this straight.
Get them some running room.
You're so sick of driving them to hockey. You're like, That's it. Hockey's over. And not only is hockey over, but we're out of here and we're going to live in the middle of nowhere, so where there is no hockey.
No. It's the exact opposite. It's I've got one kid who is like good enough that he might make the higher level of hockey, and then there's even more hockey that we got to deal with. And I still play hockey to this day. I go out once a week and play hockey. So I'm a hockey dad. I want my kids to enjoy going out and playing hockey. Even though I got one of the twins right now is showing some signs of brilliance, so he might never play hockey because I don't want to get him hit in the head. Right? He's right. my golden goose.
What is a sign of brilliance?
My sign of brilliance is probably completely different than your sign of brilliance. My sign of brilliance is that he's at 2 years old. He's fluent with everything. He picks up on, like, he can count to 10 already. He's starting to learn his colors and point them out. And I guess I look at him compared to the other three, and he's just developed so much faster. He's not like picking up an instrument or doing math skills. Like, he's not.
What about his twins? Shouldn't they be kind of like?
Well, no, they're not identical twins.
Okay.
They're twins who shared the same belly, but didn't even share. They had their own placentas growing up. They're like
fraternal
in the belly, anyways.
Yeah.
Fraternal twins that
Okay.
There's a week apart difference in their age.
Oh.
He's the younger one. How does that work?
Yeah.
Let you catch up with that.
So you never asked?
No. It's I go from date of conception, not to date of birth. So because they're fraternal and because it's not like an egg split or anything like that, it was
two separate zygotes, if it were, right? Wait a second though. So Deanne is pregnant and well aware that there's two in there. She goes in to give birth, and they're like, well, we got one, and I'm thinking in a week we'll come back and get the other. Is that a surprise? Or
No. I'm saying at conception, there's a week difference at conception. One was conceived, and then a week later, the next one was conceived. To go with your story, we went, like the other two kids, we went to Winnipeg for, and it was during that transition time of the hospital where you're going into the old green lead painted walls, archaic building, and they're like, oh yeah, this is the way we do things right now. But if you were to have a baby 3 months from now instead, everything's going to be good because we got the women's center. And we got tired of going in and getting the roll around there. The Deanne in Marcus's pregnancy wasn't treated very well, and she went into a depression. So we were staying away from Winnipeg. So we were going through Kenora. We got a doctor in Kenora, and I have to back up on the story a bit here. After Marcus's pregnancy, or after Marcus's birth, we had Sam and we had Marcus. So I had two boys. And I had promised Deanne that if Marcus came out a boy, because we didn't ask, for ultrasound, what are we having? It's going to be a surprise. I promised that if the second one was a boy, that we would try again for a girl. We ended up having a miscarriage at 5. I'm choking up here. Sorry. At 5 months, and then she had 2 more miscarriages after that. Mm. So because she got treated rudely in Winnipeg, we decided that we'd go to Kenora. You're gonna edit that, right? None of that's gonna show. We'll go back. So we go to Kenora, and we go to Kenora. We got a new doctor, and he knows our history. He knows that there's been 3 miscarriages. So we're going in there, and we're nervous that, he's gonna do the checkup, and we're gonna be on our 4th miscarriage. So he checks and oh, yep, you got a kid in there, and it's coming across healthy. And it's not like the big room ultrasound. This is, you got a kid in there, and it's like he checks and it's like, you got a kid in there, and it's healthy. Everything looks good. And it's like I said, it's not the big room ultrasound. This is just a little magic wand that he rubs against your belly, and we're good. We're out of there, and awesome. And your regular ultrasound, it's scheduled for 3 months, so I'll see you after that. So at 3 months, you know, like I think at 2 months, 2 weeks kind of thing, I was asking, I was like, do you think that it's like a possibility that you have twins? I mean,
why, was she big?
Well, she wasn't. Her boobs expanded like twice the size of what they did the previous time. Like they were just like, yeah, she was bigger, faster, not bigger, but just bigger, faster than her previous pregnancies. And it was like, no, we're probably not. And then she goes in for the ultrasound, and the technician's like, okay, only she could come in. You come in after, and she does the ultrasound. And then she opens the door, and I could hear Deanne crying. But it's sort of like when you hear your dog barking, you know if there's someone on your property to, hey, let me in. There's different levels of. So I could tell that her crying was, you know, tears of joy. And I'm just thinking that she's happy because everything's healthy, right? And I go in there, and she's like, yeah, you better sit down for this. Like, Deanne didn't say that, the technician did. And yeah, okay. And now I'm starting to question, do I not recognize, you know, what's going on? You know, I'm slowly sliding into a little bit of shell shock here. It's like, okay, just tell it to me. And she's like, yeah. So she's going over the belly, and it's like, so here's kid A. Okay. A Radiohead album. And then she's like, and here's kid B. And it's like, awesome. And that was my reaction. It was like, that's great. Like, this is perfect. This is where I'm going. I'm happy to deal with it. And
but wait a second.
You ain't gonna see me curse. Like, this is great.
Were you like, is one of those a girl?
No, yeah. Then it was like, okay, you know what? Normally we don't find out, but we're having twins. I think this is the moment where you should tell us what we're having.
Okay, 1 second.
Well,
normally when they're twins, would they know at this point whether they were identical or fraternal? Can they suss that out, or
if they're identical, then the egg has split
and they're in the same placenta.
They're in the same placenta.
Gotcha.
She was able to tell that there was two separate, fully individuals. Hey, I'm living on this side of the room, and you're living on that side of the room. So right away, she knew that they're fraternal, and there's different types of fraternal, so she was able to tell that. But because they're separate, right? Like she said, kid A, definitely a boy. I saw that already. And then she's got to go around, and kid B, which is now Phoenix, you know, he's skirting around in there, and she was chasing around. But we already knew that we were having a third boy, and there's still hope.
Yeah.
And maybe, and it's like, no, that's a boy too. And it's just like, my reaction was, oh, sorry. And
wow.
Like, we ain't trying again.
Is it off the table, a fifth?
No. I had this conversation with someone else the other day. We had bought lottery tickets for the $50 million Lotto Max. And I said, you know what? If I was to win the lottery and I had $50 million and didn't have to worry about money and, you know, providing, then I would have another kid.
Yeah, just keep pumping them on at that point. Mick Jagger.
Oh, fuck. They overrun the place already. There's 4 of them. They outnumber us. It can't get more hectic. You see these
Good.
people who've got 12 kids. It's like, well, is it any different than having 4? I mean, 4 is way different than having 2, that's for sure. But is having 6 any more different than having 4? One grows up and he's looking after the younger ones.
That's true. So,
I
are
don't
you
know.
building
I
out there?
I don't think I'm gonna win the lottery. So, we'll
You
take that
haven't?
off the
You don't
table.
know yet?
I had that if I bought a ticket. I don't know if I'm gonna win the lottery. I mean, I put a lot of faith into it, but
Okay, well, can I
think-
get in on something here? If you win the lottery, can I get 500 grand? Can we just put it in recording?
If I w- Yeah. If I win, let's put a cap on it. Like if I win $1 million, I'm not giving you half of it.
Yeah, 1%, I
throw
guess. If you're
something
50
your way.
million,
Yeah,
1%.
if I win 50 million, yeah, man, you could have 500,000. Other people have only asked for 100,000. You're pretty greedy. They're asking for going right for 5, but yeah.
Well, no, I just wanted to gauge your concept of scarcity and abundance, right? Because it's like, well,
And how
once you're delusionally thinking you have 50 million, it's like, no, 500K is too much.
Yeah, that might bankrupt me that much quicker if I gave you.
Well,
500.
Reese
that
wouldn't be
500
happy, right?
Was going to be my who wouldn't?
Reese.
Who's Reese?
Well, wait a second. What's your brother's name?
Brock.
Brock. Why did I think Reese? Yeah. Brock wouldn't be happy knowing that I got 500 and he only got 10.
Yeah. Let's do that all over again so you could edit that out so he's not upset if he listens to this podcast. And...
I don't know why I thought Reese. I obviously know it's Brock.
Yeah, no, and Brock wouldn't be upset. I mean, he's going to be happy with the 100,000 that he gets. I mean, might be a little upset that I given everyone else a little bit more, but yeah.
So it's a vacant piece of land out there. There's nothing. You got to build a house, right?
Yeah, there is nothing. Like I'm going into it. Like I said, there was the first 400 feet of it's low-lying property, so you can't drive into it. Like it's useless land. The neighbors, I guess this property has always been known as Miller's Swamp.
Oh.
Because the road that goes through the front of our place, there's swamp on one side of it, but the road goes through, and our property is actually 4 feet higher than where the road is. So if the road's staying dry, as far as I'm concerned, the property's going to stay dry. But there's a bog that I got to drive through. And a bog is, it's not a swamp. Swamp's going to have more water. And a bog is where you have trees and muskeg and Labrador tea and plants that grow on top of the surface over a peat, and the water migrates from one side to the other side underneath. So there's a way to get over it. Like in, back in the early wars, like World War I and II, the American Army engineers would have to get over bogs, right? It's like, we just marched
bog
300 miles to go get the Nazis, and they're just on the other side of that bog. We're going to have to walk around. They didn't do that. They would start cutting timbers and laying them down, and you're basically spreading your weight.
Okay.
So now, it's like going across thin ice. So I bought it in 2019. So this is like a pre-COVID thing. This isn't we got to go get out of town because of COVID.
Right.
But yeah, I started at that point cutting down trees. And I don't want to cut down the trees that are close because that's part of the blanket that's underneath that's holding up the bog. So I've started cutting trees and hauling them out from the high ground and laying out a corduroy road. And a corduroy road is where you take 15-foot logs and you will put them, perpendicular across the road, not lengthwise down the road.
Right.
One after the other, like 6-inch logs, one after the other. And then after that, You put landscaping material over it or road fabric, and then over top of that you put gravel. So now I can drive a dump truck in there. But the road that I'm putting in, I call it a road, a driveway, it takes you a couple seconds to go. Parking lot is where you back into the garage. This is 1,500 feet, so it'd be a road. And then, I got to finish that this year. Last year, we were already staying there in the summertime. I think we stayed out there from May until the kids came back in September last year.
Like in a tent?
No. I've got this super nice, it's like a 20-foot by 8 trailer that I think is originally from the 80s that someone had abandoned in an old wreckage yard.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who's a tow truck driver, and he's got a wreckage yard. And he's like, "Hey, you could have this if you want it." And, oh, sure, yeah. I can't refuse anything. It's a bit of a pack rat that way almost. So he gave me something that hadn't been used since the early 90s is the last time there was a sticker on it. And he wanted to get rid of it so bad that he drove it he put it on the back of his flat deck and took it out from Westhawk to Kenora and delivered it all free of charge just to get it out. It was a little bit rotten.
Yeah. Any biohazard like mice and stuff like that? Infestation?
No, because I think they'd gotten in there and cleaned it out years before, and there was no need to stay in there anymore. They got what they wanted, and
they were the first renovators.
No, but exactly, they left a nice little letting us know that they'd been there, but they weren't still there. But the roof leaked, so I had to do a little repairs to that. The floor, when you stepped on it, you would go through to the basement, which was non-existent. So a lot of work. I probably put $100 into it, 6 hours maybe, and that's where we lived last summer.
Wait a second, you put $100 in it?
Yeah, maybe $100.
Okay. So some duct tape.
It might have been a lot of. No. I had a lot of free stuff, right? Hey, here's a sheet of plywood that has got a cut out of it, and it's no longer good for anything. But I got a purpose for it, and some 2x4s. I had to pull some nails out of it. It's I got use for that still. So,
is it farmable land out there?
Yeah. But it's more of a livestock than
and weed.
And weed?
Yeah. Obviously, you're growing marijuana plants out there.
Well, it's Ontario, so once I moved to Ontario, I would do that, but I would not even consider it in Manitoba. Right?
Why?
For some reason, Manitoba's behind it. You're not allowed to grow weed in Manitoba.
Oh,
it's illegal. In Ontario, go ahead. You can grow weed in Ontario. It's not the reason we're moving there. It's just one of the benefits. But no, I've got neighbors who have buffalo. They've got probably 20 buffalo. We had neighbors who have horses. Last year we had 4 pigs. This year we have 6 pigs.
You do?
Currently. I get them in May. I had 4 pigs last year. I get 6 pigs this year, so we get those in May.
And what's your plan out there?
Greenhouse.
Are you doing? I can't remember what I heard, but for some reason I want to think you're doing a YouTube channel on it all or something like that. Is that what's happening?
Well, the plan isn't to become YouTubers and be able to retire and just make YouTube content.
Right.
The idea is, I think last year we're out there. I got 2-year-old twins who are running around. We have a garden. We made a bunch of raised garden beds, and at that point we don't even have running water.
Right. How do you do that?
You know, we're shipping in water. We had a creek that's running through the place, but you had to hike down the hill, and the kids were filling up buckets and bringing them up and watering the garden. And you know, as the plants got bigger, they consumed more water and became more work, and it was getting to the point where we're spending 4 hours a day running water up, and it was like, this isn't feasible. I'm going back to Westhawk. Yeah, you guys stay here. I'm out of here. Like, but then it's like, oh, we got pigs that are coming soon. It's like, and we have bees, and bees need water source, and the creek is starting to dry up because it hadn't rained in a long time, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to dig a well. And I went, and I have a backhoe on the property and dug a well. And
how do you know how to do that?
I was nervous. I don't know, because it's not even like a YouTube video. It's a YouTube videos that I was watching. Is this guy talking, oh yeah, we're gonna dig a well, and he takes a little post digger and starts digging in and adding extensions. Like, I'm not doing that. That's a lot of work. So I just, if there's water down below, my backhoe could dig 23 feet down. I just kind of read the land, and it's like, the slope is here, the creek is a little bit further down, water is running in that general direction. The idea of a well is that you're going to hit the water table, which is running along the bedrock. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to start digging. And I got the backhoe up and started digging, and about 13 feet down, the soil was like starting to collapse in because it was starting to leach water into the pit that I dug. And I was like, hey, we did it. It was almost like, you know, discovering, well, I would assume is almost like discovering gold, but I think actually if I discovered gold, I'd be a lot more elated than I was discovering water. But, you know, water's pretty good. Having that there,
keep you alive.
We were able, like, it is cold, clear water. We could drink it right out of the ground. I haven't taken it in to be tested, but I drank some of it and didn't have to stay on the outhouse toilet for the next 3 days. I haven't given it to the kids. You know, I tested it on myself. I'm the guinea pig. Yeah. So not the kids. We have our drinking water there, but I fed it to the pigs. Like I said, it runs cold and clear. We'll water the plants and basically almost empty the well. So it seems to be producing 1,100 liters a day.
How do you know that?
Well, I put a culvert into it, and by doing the math on how big the culvert is to how deep the water table rises to, I was able to punch it in on the calculator, and it says at this level it's 1,100 liters. And then when it starts spitting out, I know it's at the bottom, and once you get back to the top again, it's like it's producing consistently 11, well, let's just call it 1,000 liters of water a day.
Is that enough?
Our consumption,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're the pigs are always fresh water. Watering the plants, like we're over watering the plants. Like I said, it's a bit of a drought last year. They've officially called it a drought out here this year, even though we're in lakeland and, you know, water is readily available. It's the moisture coming from the sky is down. So we're over watering things is what I'm saying. Like if it rained, then we wouldn't have to water as much. So I think maybe the well would even build up more.
What's the goal of it all? Is it to be able to live out there like completely off the grid?
Yeah. I think
100% off the grid.
100% off the grid, by choice and by circumstance. Because we're 1,500 feet in to where we want to build, you would have to pay hydro, and I think it's every 300 feet. You got to put a pole in, and every pole costs $3,500 to put in. It would cost us to get hydro there, so we could pay them $750 to $1,000 a month for them to provide us with electricity. It would cost just as much as it would to buy a solar array and start off right off the grid.
Okay.
So that's the route we're going. We're going full off the grid. We're going to have solar panels to start with. We're going to have propane stove inside. We'll have a wood boiler outside. So in the wintertime, you throw wood into the boiler, and you have like a heat line that goes through it, like a water line that would go through it, or a glycol line that goes through it, and then it goes through the flooring of your house and back out to the boiler and back around constantly.
24/7 this is running, this is stoking the fire for this, or?
Yeah, but it, like years ago, 15 years ago, it was a primitive concept where you'd be running out there first thing in the morning and stoking the fire. This one's got, it's efficient, so you fuel it up once a day. On your way to work, you go and fill it up and continue going. And it probably costs or consumes about 10 cords of wood through the winter time. We've got lots of deadfall around the place, so we're probably looking at 10 years before we'd even have to consider dropping trees to
Right.
fuel ourselves through the winter time. And then at current prices, it'd be about $4,000 a year. So that'd be, you're heating your place from September till May. It'd be about $4,000 for that time span to buy enough wood to keep it going.
All right. It's quite a bit.
Yeah. The idea is to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, and to have enough product. I'd like to get to the point where I'm actually feeding 10 families.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe start off, like I don't sell pigs, but I look after pigs for 5 different people this year. Right? I can't sell them because there's some legal loophole where it's not inspected meat. So
Right.
because it's not inspected, so the idea is that I look after other people's pigs, and then I'll help them harvest them, and then they could take them to the butcher after that.
Okay,
But
so you're not the
eventually I'd like
butcher
to get
either?
No, but that's kind of in the grand design, the future plans, where once we build house first, then a shop, and in that shop, you'd be able to have an area of that shop where I would be able to butcher my own product and have it at a point where if someone came and was like, wait a second, let me see it. It's like, yeah, it's stainless steel, it's washable, I got running water, and it's, you could certify it. So then I could start selling certified stuff
Right.
and actually butcher it myself. Because there's a cost in that I'd rather go into my
Right.
pocket than into someone else's.
Now the boys,
But we
do
just
you think there'll come a time in their life where they're like, I need internet, Dad. I need internet.
Oh yeah, no. The internet is one of those things where, I'm not purchasing it right now because we're kind of on the cusp of, everything's getting put into this place to put it onto market at the end of the month.
Mm.
And then as soon as this goes on the market, we start developing the next place. One of the first things we'll do is get the Starlink, because we're remote.
Okay, yeah.
It's not like I could get them to run, Bell fiber to my place.
Right.
But from everyone out here who's gone with the Starlink already, they say it's like life changing compared to having to deal with our internet out here.
Is it bad out there?
When it's really good for the shoulder seasons, when no one's out here.
Oh,
But as soon as, so for COVID, it's been horrible because and I understand why everyone's coming out here, but everyone comes out here and we're using the same signal, and you get log jammed on the weekend where, the
yeah.
kids would want to watch a movie. It's like, nope, you have to wait till Tuesday to watch that.
What's the cost on
So,
that Starlink? Do you know?
um, yeah, it is costly. It's like $600 just to buy the unit,
Okay.
and then it ranges depending on what site you're looking at, or maybe where it is, or from like 100 to 150, which is comparable to
Right.
what we're paying out here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now Starlink, everyone I know who has it, they're remote, but their neighbors don't have it. So they're the only one who is grabbing that signal out of the atmosphere in their area. So if their neighbors on both sides start getting it, does it logjam again? I don't know.
Hmm.
But our closest neighbor is 70 acres away on either side of us, right? So we shouldn't have to share.
What about school for the boys?
There's a bus that goes by our front road, picks them up. We were homeschooling them this year without incident. They were enjoying themselves. They were, excelling at what they were doing. But then hockey got shut down because of COVID. And, hockey was their social outlet. And so
Right.
we lost that. And we started noticing that there was a little bit more tension and depression, I guess, is the only way that I could pigeonhole it. And it was like, oh, you guys are going back to school. And no, we don't want to go back to school.
Oh, they didn't want to,
And
right?
then no, they didn't want to. And then their first day back at school was like, yeah, we love going back to school because all their friends are there.
Right.
Like originally when we purchased the property, the idea was to be out here next year, not this year, because Sam will be going into grade 7, and that's the transition year, right? Like if he goes next year, he'll be going into grade 6, so he won't know anyone, but everybody will already have their social circles together.
Right.
Or if you go into grade 7, you're getting people coming from everywhere, and everyone redevelops their social circles. So we're a year ahead, and the only reason we're a year ahead is because of COVID and the way that prices are out here right now. Like right now, I know I could get a premium dollar for what I have. Where next year, I would still ask the same amount, but it might take a while to sell it. Right now, I got like 5 different people who are, hey, can we come by and take a look at it before you put it on the market? It's I haven't even that's just word of mouth that we're selling. I mean, local rumor is that we've already sold and then we're moving out of here, but we haven't, we're not. But that's a good thing to have, right? Like I don't know what the future would hold. Maybe it would even go up in price because COVID will last another full year and everyone wants to escape here. So as everyone's escaping here, I'm going to go a little bit further into the bush.
Yeah, makes sense.
I know, yeah. And then we're closer to, our place out in Sioux Narrows too. So like from here, it's a 2.5-hour drive. From there, I guess from here it'd be a 2-hour drive, and from there it'd be an hour drive. So might get to utilize that a little bit more too.
Are you still doing the what would it, like? It's like you're taking care of cabins through the winter. Is it what or what are you doing?
Yeah, what I'd call it, and I do call it property management.
Okay.
I mean, to some I'm just a handyman. But I look after their cabins throughout the year. Even when they're there, if things need to be done, I go in and get them done. But I also look after bringing in, the guy who looks after the heating units, and if there's an electrician that needs to be brought in, I bring in the electricians and the guys who look after the security systems. Like I look after about $40 million worth of cabins. So there's a lot more to it than, just going and hammering in a couple nails and fixing a dock. it's there. Some of the places I look after are full on compounds
Right.
that they could be, they're like 5,000 square feet kind of thing. That they could be like a building in the city that has a janitor working at it 24/7.
Who's the motivational engine in this idea? Is it you or is it Deanne? Like who's running this show?
Well, Deanne has said, hey, whichever way you want to take it, I'm following you. Obviously, it's not just me. Like, a lot of my history, and I kind of jump around and stick out my thumb, and if the bus stops, I'm getting on it. And I think that's like I said, we weren't looking at moving out of here. Just, hey, this is an opportunity, and we bought it. And then I think we bought it and we sort of like, all right, no, we're just going to move to it. Let's these are the things that we need to do. Let's start watching YouTube videos and get some information. And then all of a sudden we started watching some homesteading videos. It's like, hey, yeah, we could get into doing the homestead. And I think last year we're going back to a question you asked a long time ago that I completely avoided the answer to unintentionally. Just what is that? I sidetrack a lot. I skip track.
What you mean? A question I asked?
Yeah, a question you asked. It was
I don't even remember the question I asked.
Oh, it was about like YouTube, if that's the route that we were going.
Yeah, right.
And I think, I was going on about the trailer that we lived in, and having twins and no running water and running and being full of mud all the time and getting into the garden, raising pigs. It's just like, this is not how anybody does anything. Like the homesteaders that we're watching is like, oh, we're going to go homestead and the electricity comes right to the place, and eventually we're going to go onto solar and get off grid, and we're going to build an outbuilding now. Come watch us build an outbuilding. It's like, we don't even have anything to start with. We're just living like 100% off the land in this dingy little trailer that I don't think I would be able to convince anyone else to stay in. Yet for some reason I got 5 individuals who say, yeah, this is awesome.
They're all on board too, like the boys. Well, I mean, the twins.
Not a complaint. Not like, yeah, they love it. They think that that this is going to be awesome, right? Like, we're going to move out there. They're boys. Like, yeah. I've got them. We evolved the way that we're supposed to evolve, where I taught them how to throw rocks, and then once they learned how to throw rocks properly, they moved up to slingshots, and once they were doing good with the slingshots, they moved to a bow and arrow, and once they're hitting the target regularly with the bow and arrow, now I've got them a pellet gun. It's like, oh, yeah, we get to go shoot things, and I was fixing up a quad for them to drive, so they're going to be able to get into quads and dirt bikes. And if I had 4 girls,
different story.
I know everybody's going to dogpile me here and say that boys and girls are all the same, but they're not at all. Like, the boys, they embrace this. I don't know if I could convince 4 girls to embrace it the same way, because we're always filthy right now. Deanne loves it. Deanne has always loved animals, and she loves having animals, and it's every day I come home, it's like, yeah, we, I've done research on this. We could get a horse, and we could get a cow, and we could get this. And it's like,
where did you
meet
her?
One step at a time.
She seems like a real gem. Where did you meet her?
I met her at the bar, and I think it's one of those times where I have won the lottery. I go, back in time as I won the lottery here and I won the lottery there, and meeting her was winning the lottery. She was, I hired her, sight unseen, over the phone kind of thing, to be a bartender. And it was, okay, well, we're coming out there. I'm coming out to be a bartender. Me and my sister, whose sister actually worked at the MASH with us. She worked down in Diablo's in the basement.
Okay.
Vicky. I don't know if you remember her or not. She was younger, younger sister. But the two of them were coming out, and they needed a place to stay. And at that time, I was living in the motel units of the bar, and Dale and I were living in them. And Dale, in the summertime, would move out to his cabin, but I had nowhere else to go. And I was giving up my hotel room for her and her sister. It was a 2-bedroom hotel room.
Where were you sleeping then?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was I was crashing at Dale's place, and then we got together, and it was like a month later where, yeah, it's you're not even getting me out of the motel room anymore. It was like, this is my place first. And yeah, I had kind of moved back into my old place and was living with her and her sister, and yeah, then that was it. She couldn't get rid of me after that. It was like, I got a place to stay. You're not getting rid of me. You're cooking me food. Like,
she seems to be along for all your harebrained schemes, which is nice to see. Or are you along for her harebrained schemes?
I think we feed off and tolerate each other. Where it's like, okay, you could run with that, and she's had some things along the way where it's like I'm encouraging her to go out and start that, and she does, and she does an amazing job of it. Like, her social networking skills, like online social networking skills, maybe not going out to a party social networking skills.
Right.
I don't even know what that's called. That's how good my social networking
Well, what's a party
skills are.
I don't remember.
No. I mean, my online social networking skills are so good, I don't even know what it's called, right? Like, I'm not on Facebook, and
right.
I've just recently, I'm not even 100% comfortable with how I look on camera, because my whole sideways face, and I'm just starting to get comfortable with it. And she's all like, she had an Etsy account a long time ago, and she was like a Manitoba Etsy leader, and they were getting her to come out to Toronto to be an Etsy leader out there. And then we had the twins, and all that fell apart, but now she's rebuilding her social fabric, or her social networking fabric. And I have no idea how she does it all, but she seems to do a good job of it. I don't even like that thing's on a wall on the other side of my existence. Like, I know that she does it, but I don't know what goes on and what's involved in that. Like, she had to sit me down to get me to show me how to go online to do a Zoom conference in COVID, which I think the kids do on a daily basis. So
it's not the worst thing though that you it's like you almost missed the whole wave of social media that came right under your feet. The whole world changed. And you're like, now just catching up.
I used this reference many times, maybe not many, but a couple times, that sometimes I feel like the girl in the red dress. I'm going to let that sink in for a second to see if you get the
Schindler's
reference.
List?
In Schindler's List. Very good. Thank you for that. Because a lot of people think that I'm just being weird saying I feel like the girl in the red dress. But no, the world's going on around me, and I picked my point, and I'm going to where I want to go. And along the way, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot something. I got to go back and get it and come back to continue on my trajectory. But yeah, I'm not going with the flow, but I'm not swimming against the stream either, if that makes sense. So
you kind of are, though, in the sense that it's definitely not what most people would say normal, but I don't think you ever strive for that to begin with anyway, right?
I think I realized early that I wasn't going to be able to achieve it, so I just gave up on it.
Yeah, but then you go and buy a bar, which it's kind of like jumping feet first back. That
was one of those things of winning the lottery, right? Like, I mean, I went from being a truck driver, which all the power to those guys who do that. But to me, it was like living in solitary confinement. It's one of the
Yeah, no doubt.
most unrewarding, lonely jobs in the world, where you get on the CB and have a conversation, but it's the same conversation you had in the previous state. And I ended up turning off the CB, and there'd be weeks where I wouldn't have a conversation except for maybe, thank you very much. Can I have $100 worth of diesel, please? And yes, I'll have a hamburger. Like, besides that, besides squeaking out, not even like, when I know you don't drink anymore and I've slowed down, but in the old days where you had gone on such a bender the night before and your head was hurting when you woke up and you had smoked so many cigarettes that you weren't even sure if your voice would work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt a lot of times when I'd be going into a truck stop. It's like, I haven't used my voice in a long time.
Oh, right.
Except when, I'm listening to conspiracy radio late at night and I'd turn the overhead light on and my reflection would be in the windshield, and then I'd have my best conversations of the week.
Would you say that your most rewarding, glamorous job was when you were the driver for Leader House across Canada, my band?
It might have been the most glamorous because, I was on the verge of becoming family with rock gods.
Yeah.
But then for some reason it just, I think I ruined the band, right? Like, it was like, hey, I gotta go out and make money, guys. And then once they realized, wait a second, we've lost our driver, the band just fell apart. But really, I was just going out to make money so I could come back and pay for gas so the band could continue. But
Right, yeah.
I didn't have a cell phone at that time in order to communicate that properly. And yeah, no, it was that that was an adventure. But do you remember, like, the night that, like, you asked me, hey, like, you want to be our driver? I actually remember that. So it was a life-changing moment for me.
Tell me about it. What was it? Where were we?
It wasn't really. I think we were at. It was like either Jane's place or maybe your parents' place. It was upstairs at a party, and we were talking about something. Not you and I were talking about something, but the crowd was talking about something. And I was just in town for a couple weeks. I was living out in Calgary at the time. This was like after working at the Roxy and working at Iceworks and just sort of running, myself into the ground, being a bartender and a partier. And then I had a friend in Alberta who was like, hey, you come out here and I got you a job lined up. And I'd moved out there and I was living with him and his girlfriend who had a kid and their dog and a friend, and we're living in a basement of a side-by-side. It was just like, I might as well have been sleeping in a closet. It was
Right.
It was hard. You don't know anyone else, so there's no social life out there. And then I had enough of them and I moved out. And I took one of their dogs with me when I moved out because he was a puppy who they were just neglecting, and he was a super smart dog. And I had a framing job. And I moved out and I started living in my van. And I know you've had living in my van stories before. This isn't anything unique. But it was, I was living in my van, and it was, okay, I'm going to park here tonight because this is outside of town. This is going to be safe. And I'd have some kids drive by and throw a rock at the van. It's like, okay, I can't stay here. And then there's like, okay, I'm going to stay here. And something would happen there. It's like, okay, I can't stay here anymore. And then I'd stay on the job site, but then there's security that's always going around the job sites because it's like track row housing that's all being built, and people are ripping off, materials and stuff. So it's like, okay, I can't stay here. One night I'm really stretching this story out to how we started off with,
Right.
But sorry. And the one night I'm living in the van outside of my buddy's place, and someone comes and sticks their face against the window of the van. They're casing it, right, and looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat up, and that guy took off, and was like, wow, I can't even stay behind my friend's house anymore. So I went, and I was staying at the truck stops, and I ended up coming into town. I was like, I need a break. I need a vacation. So I took 2 weeks off. Came into Winnipeg, and this was one of the parties, the catch-up parties. Haven't seen anyone for a year and catching up. And I was talking about, the van and living in the van and how I like to travel, because I had gone on, like a 2-month road trip driving through the States at one time. And you're listening into the conversation, and you came in and you're like, wait a second. Are you telling me that you like driving and you could fix a vehicle if it breaks down? It's like, yeah. And you're like, how would you like to be? And I don't know what the title was. I always called myself a road manager just to inflate it, but I was probably just like a roadie who got a really bad per diem. But it's
Did you get a per diem?
Oh, wait a second. The thing, yeah, I got a per diem. I got, it was like whatever you guys could. It's like, okay, I'm not finishing this crust, and it's like Scott wasn't finishing that crust, and it's like you guys would squish it together so it looked like a bun that I would get. That would be my basic per diem. It wasn't a glamorous per diem. It wasn't something that I could live off of. Like every time we came back, I'd have to go out and find work. But that's what it was. It was, you like driving, you could fix a vehicle if it breaks down, and you like our music. Would you like to be? And it was like, man, we were drunk, and it was like, yeah, I think I would like that. And it was like in my head, it's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go travel with a band. This is my life. I've hit the big time. That was my way of thinking. I went and gave my notice. I didn't go back out to Alberta, and I think it was like it was a week later where I was like, holy fuck, I made a mistake here, because we were headed to either like Thunder Bay or Sudbury, and you were driving, and we had just made it past Deacon's Corner, our first fuel up, and I'm in the back seats, and we're doing 110 kilometers down the Trans-Canada Highway. Deacon's Corner is still in sight. I can still see it, and you're jacking on the brakes, and the semi-truck driver is like giving us the horns, because I don't know if you'd ever driven before, or
why was I driving though? That's the question.
I don't know. I think it was like, hey, I'm taking command of the situation. I'm
going to show you how it's done here.
Here we go. It is like everybody's like, pull over. We pulled over because I think there was a bit of shaking going on that. Holy shit, this guy's gonna kill us if he has to. It might have been that. It might have been you just saying, hey, like, you're needed, and if you don't step up and drive right now, I will kill us all. So you better take your responsibility to heart here, and you drive. And yeah, so that was it. I think you drove a couple more times after that, but every time you did, I couldn't sleep, so it was like, I might as well be driving.
How many tours did you do?
I don't know. It just seemed like it was one long tour.
Yeah, endless.
Like,
tour to nowhere.
We went out to, we went out to, like I said, Toronto. I went down to South by Southwest with you.
Oh, okay.
We went out to Vancouver. I was there, and I tried to get you to remember this when I was going on to your live cast there. That we went to a sound studio. It was either Toronto or Vancouver, and we're laying the bed tracks and everything for like a compilation album.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, it was like, I think the Bare Naked Ladies were on that compilation album. Bruce Coburn was on that. Is it Ron Sexsmith was on that? Is that right? Ron Sexsmith?
Yeah, it was called Woodsmith Studios or something like that. Yeah, I remember that. The song was called Leaving Liberty.
Now I'll butcher this, but it's I've been dropping messages everywhere. everywhere under the sun.
Yes, that is.
See,
that
every
is
once in a while, when someone's not returning my text, that song gets into my head, and I don't know if I've ever heard it anywhere besides in that studio. And
I've
yet,
never heard it since.
that little
Actually,
lick.
I don't even have a
I don't
copy of the
even.
song.
Oh, I don't even know how to find it.
No, neither.
Like, I've tried to go compilation album with these bands, but nothing comes up. So.
Yeah. Did you go to the Vegas conference that we played? We were in the sand.
No, I didn't go to the Vegas. I didn't go. You guys had gone to Detroit. I didn't go to Detroit. Like, I guess one was before my time, and maybe Vegas was after my time. I don't know.
I remember the reason why I thought you would be a good fit was because you shared the same, delusional romance for the concept. Like just a bunch of guys in a band traveling North America playing gigs. Not too many people would really subscribe to that, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, we can't pay you. We could give you like lunch money every once in a while, and you will have a place on the floor to sleep in the hotels or the band rooms that we get to stay in. Even though a lot of those band rooms you didn't want to sleep on the floor,
or the bed.
But yeah, I mean, that was my offer. Is like, but there is that opportunity that someday we will see our names in lights, and there was good times where every once in a while you would have that like shining moment. Like, I remember a night in Sudbury where everybody was just into it. They got it right, and they were going crazy. And we were opening for the Elephant Band. Remember the Elephant Band?
Yeah. That was the nickel.
That night
like that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, something like that.
Being in Sudbury would be the nickel in. Yeah, and that was a night where, like, young crowd, just everyone going crazy for it, jumping around, like almost mosh pitting it and going around selling CDs, passing the hat around, and it was,
that's a perfect
shining
example.
Moments. It was like a good. Go ahead.
It's a perfect example of how people think it is and how it really is. So people think that it's night after night after night of those gigs, but that one gig was a needle in the haystack. Next gig was in, let's say, Kitchener to 0 people.
Yeah, to like a room of the guys who work there drinking coffee and sitting behind the bar, and there'd be a couple, maybe 3 people who were friends of the people who were working at the bar, and that's who you're opening for. But I was gonna say it was sort of like when I used to go golfing. I sucked at it, but you get one good hit, and it makes you, I'm going back again, man. I'm going back again. Like, you get that one good feeling. Well, that night, man, I think that fed us for the next 3 nights. It might have even fed us or fed you for the next tour. I remember going to Nelson, BC, very artistic town. There was a guy with long dreads and a long Gandalf kind of beard who was leading the crowd there, because I think it's like an art university that's close by there or something. But they got it, right? And I remember they were getting it, and I heard these 2 girls talk, and they're like, yeah, this is a great band. They're out of Prague. And one's like, no, I think they mean that, like, they're out of progressive rock. And she's like, oh. I think they thought that you were
Prague.
European. These guys are huge in Europe.
Well, you came on board too when we were on this, like, almost at the top of our what would be the launch pad into a big band in Canada, right? Like, everything was kind of hitting at the right moment, so it made sense to jump on board there. But
Yeah, but I had heard your music, right? Like, sorry, I'm like mixing your sister up with my wife's name. Jane had given me a CD, and we'd been to the Pyramid many times to watch you. So I knew I liked your music. I didn't know, what you had lined up. Like I didn't know at the time when I joined
Right.
you that you were going to be going down to South by Southwest and opening up for. Actually, it was him who opened up for you, Danko Jones.
Danko Jones, yeah.
Remember? Yeah, do you remember it? Like he opened up, and all it was like boom, 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 heavy bass that he's doing, just like grinding it out, and then he'd lean up to the microphone, and go Danko Jones,
Yeah.
and then he'd go back and he'd do a bass line. It's like, this isn't even a song, but that stuck with me. The guy,
Yeah.
very good at marketing, I guess.
He had an interesting shtick. I liked him.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah,
else
like I
was
said,
on the bill?
it wasn't.
The Constantines. I think they're from Toronto or something, but they were on the bill, and this weird kind of poet rapper girl from Vancouver.
Something Star.
Yeah, Kinney Star.
Like Kinney Star. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we went out of the venue, the guy from Living Underneath the Power Lines, Getting Cancer Underneath the Power Lines, that's what the song's about. I can't remember. Junkhouse.
Junkhouse, yeah.
Junkhouse, the lead singer from Junkhouse, without the band or anything, runs up to everybody with an acoustic guitar. He's like, "Whoa, wait, everybody, wait! I want to play this for you." And he played that song about living under the power lines. It was like, "Hey, man, this guy's Canadian too. I just thought he was one of the Austin artists coming running out of the woodwork, but."
Yeah,
he was
very
signed,
drunk
so it was
too.
weird.
I remember that. There was some sort of thing with the hotel with either him or someone in the band and Sarah. Do you remember Sarah? They had some sort of drunken confrontation or something. Anyway, I don't know. Those were fun times.
No.
That was the highlight for me, South by Southwest, because I thought that was a pretty big deal at the time. Tom Waits, remember that it was his like birthday there or something.
It was Tom Waits did a private show for anybody who was involved in all the artists and musicians that were part of South by Southwest. He did a private show for them. I remember Scott was just like, he was losing his mind. I think he was in tears at one time. He's like,
well, do you remember?
This is Tom Waits, man.
The reason why I wasn't at the Tom Waits concert is because I drank some water, and like 2 hours later, I started shivering, and I had a fever for like 12 hours. Like something was wrong, some bug. I couldn't even leave the hotel room. And then a day later, I was fine, but I missed the concert.
Oh, I always thought that was like your rendition of Shiver Me Timbers, and then just no one really liked it, and so you were pouting and wouldn't go with everybody.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Screw Tom Waits.
Yeah, you guys don't like my rendition, I'm not going.
Did we do Shiver Me Timbers?
Yeah, you might have done Shiver Me Timbers. Covers that you guys did, Shiver Me Timbers. What's the Buzz?
Yeah, the Ween one.
I remember What's the Buzz. You guys did such a good rendition of that. You nailed it time after time, like 98% of the time you nail it. And then we're out in Vancouver, and and the bass player, I won't name him so he doesn't go, hey, wait a second, that's not true.
Scott.
Oh yeah, Scott Nolan. He went and, right before the set, he went and got high, and he's just peaking when he's playing, and it gets to his point where, he's supposed to jump in, and he didn't do anything. He just kept on playing, and you're like, well, that you just kept on going like he had gone in and done his
one part he had to do,
what's
right?
happening. Yeah, and it was like, oh yeah, and there's people there, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome, because it was always he would get so into it, and then he didn't even lean into it. He just pretended that he wasn't even part of it, and I was like, oh, all right, that didn't, and it just seemed to that show.
That was it. The band went downhill from that.
That could have been the moment, yeah. I don't, yeah. That'll always remain a mystery to me, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
The moment.
Is it Deanne's idea to kind of record everything and make a YouTube channel out of it? I think it's a great idea.
I think it was us sitting down and watching YouTube videos after we got the property. Like, we weren't ever considering, hey, we got to go buy a property so we could do YouTube videos.
Yeah.
We bought the property, and then it was like last year where, like I said, all this stuff was happening. It was like, we should be shooting videos. Like, everything that we're doing is a struggle. It's unique to the beginnings. Like I said, you watch these guys. So yeah, we got a homestead, and you watch them talk about their homestead, and yet they're buying all this stuff. Yeah, we just went out and bought a new tractor, and we just went out and bought a $60,000 truck that we could drive around. And it's like, wait a second, you're not making that off of a homestead. You don't make $100,000 a year off of a homestead. It's like, I think that YouTube, hey, we're a homestead channel, is becoming unrealistic. And if you are someone who's into watching homesteads, then you don't want to just watch someone who's already made it. We're a YouTube sensation, and we no longer have the struggle. I think the romance of the story is in the struggle. And, I think we went through that. It's like, yeah, we might not have like the best camera work, and we'll have to get an editing program in order to make our content a little bit more enjoyable. But I don't think we want to I think we want to be homesteaders. We don't want to be YouTubers. We want to be homesteaders that have a YouTube channel, not YouTubers who have a homestead.